instructions.
conference will now
And so
be
what I'm going to
recorded.
do is I have a list here of all the members. This will be in no particular order. It will be both staff and members, but basically to call the roll. So I'm just going to start from the top. Glenn Eaton. If you could just
Yes, sir.
present.
Thank you.
Jason Stanton.
Here.
Kayla Kress, sorry.
Here.
Alan Pease.
Here.
Bill Olefke.
Here.
Christopher McNamara.
Here.
Dean Valier.
Here.
George Cahill.
Present.
Guy Corbacero, myself, present, I think. Holly Ford.
Here.
Todd Hume.
Here.
John Telepiak.
Here.
Laura Schifrin.
I'm with you.
All right. Linda Quinlivan. Okay, I think she responded.
Here.
Matt Brenner. Okay, Matthew Brenner.
I'm here.
Peter Cunningham.
Yep, present.
Rick Ward. Robert Schwartz.
Here.
Roger Hoyt.
Present.
Russ Williston, sorry.
I'm here.
Russell Burke.
Present.
And last but not least, Sean Copeland.
Here. Present.
Okay, very good. That is the roll call. Announcement, does anybody have any announcements? Okay, I just do want to mention that we are meeting pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting of the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission will be conducted via remote participation. Okay, very good. So there's that. And I just want to mention that the Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law is due to end June 15th. So unless he makes any provisions or the legislature does, it looks like our next meeting will be in person. I'm hoping
Hey, can I
that
just
he
also
will.
make a
Yes,
quick
go right
announcement?
ahead.
Because we're getting a lot of background noise and a lot of other stuff. So if you're not actively speaking, if you could just mute your microphone, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Jason. Okay, with that, if no other announcements, we move on to approval of the May 6, 2021 MRPC minutes. And approval is requested. Those minutes were sent to you a few days back by Holly Ford, and they are also on the website. Do I have any comments, questions in regards to them? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented. And as always, if you vote for them now and then find a problem later on, we can always go back and correct them.
Move to motion that we approve the minutes from our last meeting as presented.
I'll second that, Bob
Okay,
Schwartz.
okay, that was Peter Cunningham and Bob Swartz. Any other discussion? If not, I will call the roll. Sean Copeland.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, Russell Burke.
I vote yes.
Russ Williston.
Yes.
Roger Hoyt.
Yes.
Robert Schwartz.
Yes.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
John Telepiak.
Aye.
Guy Corbacero, myself, aye. Dean Valier.
Aye.
Christopher McNamara.
Yes.
Heath Staff.
Bill. Oh, I'm sorry, he's staff. I missed that. Bill Lefty.
Aye.
Alan Pease.
Aye.
And I think that's all the members. I think the rest on my list are staff. Yes, they are. Okay, very good. Those were accepted unanimously. So we move on to the next item, which is the cash schedule. Laura, would you like to take this?
I sure would.
Okay,
I
great.
did get a chance to review them briefly. We're still in good shape. And I would just mention that of the 613,498.90 that we have as the total cash before the warrant includes the $456,003.45 of the opening balance and receipts of $157,495.45, of which a whopping $17.61 was interest. Makes you stop and think, doesn't it? For all that money to have just that amount of interest. So the warrant for the cash disbursements for this period is $119,586.03, of which $79,110.55 was payroll with, and I just noticed this tonight as I'm looking at it, probably was sleeping all the other times, but we really don't have a list of what the other checks and debits, cash disbursements of the 40,000, 475.48 are. I don't know if Linda wants to expound on that or not, which makes our total expenses the 119.
I can provide that for you, Laura.
Okay.
Next time, sure, I can do that.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can,
Okay.
then we can sort of see, I mean, we can see where the receipts are coming in for the different projects that are being
Yeah.
worked on, which is great. So yeah, that would be, I'll fill in the blanks a little bit.
Sure, that's not a problem.
Okay, and that leaves us with total on deposit as of May 31st of $493, $912.87. Guess those are numbers I'm not used to. Anyway, if there aren't any questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the cash schedule for May 31st, 2021, subject to audit.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I motion we
Russ
accept
Burke.
the,
Okay, Guy, there's a first and a second. Do you want to take the roll?
Okay, very good. I start again at the top. Alan Pease.
Aye.
Bill Olefsky.
Aye.
Bill, I hope I'm not butchering your name too badly.
It's Elke
Dean
but close
Valier.
enough.
Aye.
Okay. Dean Valier's an aye. Guy Corpusero, the chair votes aye. John Telepiak,
Aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye.
Matthew Brenner,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, I'm going to abstain. I had to step away, so I did not hear the motion.
okay, very good. Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
Russ Williston,
Aye.
Russell Burke,
Aye.
and Sean Copeland.
Aye.
Okay, very good. And the cash schedule is accepted unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 4, election of officers for the year of 21. The committee met earlier at 6:30 and came up with a slate. And will you be taking this, John, or who on your committee?
I believe I said I would.
Okay,
So
very good.
what the nominating, all right, so the nominating committee selected Guy Corbusero from Townsend as chairman, John Tlepsiak of Phillipston as vice chairman, Laura Schifrin of Townsend as treasurer, Roger Hoyt from Ashburnham as vice treasurer, Peter Cunningham of Groton as secretary,
Actually,
Sean
yes.
Copeland of,
Point of order, please. Point of order. Actually,
Sure.
we're a little mixed up there. Sean Copeland and myself are switched. I
You're
was going
right,
to be
you're
at
right.
large member. Sean was
you're
going to be
right. We
secretary.
corrected that. And
I don't want to, I don't want to take away from Sean and his ability as secretary. So
Yeah, you're right. I was just reading the names, but you're right. We corrected that before. We can only
You
blame
did.
Glenn,
I
but
didn't
we'll
correct
forgive
it.
him.
That's my error. My apologies to the nominating committee.
All right. So what
Excuse
that
me,
is
can I also,
Sean
ask,
Copeland's going to
hey,
be
Guy,
our-
did you move
well,
to Townsend? Guy
I was
move to
going to wait
Townsend
till the
and
end
not
before
tell
I
me?
made that.
That should say Winchendon.
Stuck
oh,
in the
yeah,
time.
that's not correct either. Well, should I start over or will I just correct? Guy is from Townsend and Sean Copeland is going to be, pending the vote, our secretary. And Peter is going to serve at large. Those are the people that are the nominating committee selected, and at some point we'll vote on that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John. Actually, do we have anybody that wants to offer an opposing slate of officers? Not hearing any. Do we have any discussion on this? Again, not hearing any. I will ask for a motion to approve the slate of officers put forward by John Telepiak with the corrections he made.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, very good, Peter Cunningham. And
Then I
I
would
think I have Roger Hoyt making a second.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any discussion? If not, I will call the roll. This is for the slate of officers presented. Sean Copeland,
Aye.
Russell Burke,
Aye.
Russ Williston,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner,
Aye.
Bruce Schifrin,
Aye.
John Telepiak,
Slapsiak, aye.
Guy Corbicero, myself, aye. Dean Valier,
Aye.
Bill Lefke,
Aye.
and Alan Pease.
Aye.
I think that's all the voting members. If I haven't missed any, the vote is unanimous to accept the slate of officers for the year 2021 to 2022. Okay, very good. Next item on the agenda is administrative matters, which I will turn things over to our director, Glenn Eaton, and he can take these up with you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. They're about half informational or 2/3 informational, and we're requesting a few votes. The June meeting is the budget meeting, so just as a reminder, if any of you have this in paper in front of you, I'm going to ask if it's okay with you folks that we do item 5.7 before 5.6, and I'll explain more when we get there. 5.1 is an update on the COVID office space management and safety. The bottom line is that I opened the doors for voluntary employees to come back as of May 10. Mandatory return to the office will be on July 12th. Guy indicated that the governor basically stopped allowing the televid remote conferencing for the open meetings. So yes, the first Thursday of July, I want to say it's the 8th, we'll meet in person. I'll be on vacation that week, but I will at least call in. That's really the gist of 5.1. So we'll be back in operation basically on July 12th, and the first meeting we'll have the doors open for that meeting of the July 8th for the commissioners and staff. That's the gist of 5.1. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, I'll just rock and roll. 5.2, there's no new information on the retirement legislation. 5.3 is a status report for the 5-town regional block grant that Chris McNamara it's Chris McNamara. Apologies to Chris McNamara. So we have two Chris's now. We have Chris McDermott, Economic Development Manager, and we have Chris McNamara. Chris, thanks for coming in. Chris McNamara, thanks for chiming into the meeting. Chris McNamara is our new fiscal assistant, working with Linda Quinlivan in fiscal. 5.3 is the CDBG for Shirley, Lunenburg, Royalston, Townsend, and Westminster. We have a small business grant program. We've blasted some more marketing out there. We're getting more bites at the apple, which is good. So we're actually reviewing 4 grant applications right now, which is good. And all the food bank operator contracts have been fully executed, and those are underway. The food bank operators are operating in Lunenburg and Townsend and Shirley. So I'm waiting for some monthly reports and their invoices. We need to start processing some paperwork and some checks to get those entities reimbursed for the food service they're delivering to the people in those communities. Unless somebody says something, I'll just keep going. 5.4 is just an update on the strategic planning. So this last month is all about the budget and prepping and other things. So also I mentioned here that we did hire on board a new fiscal assistant. I mentioned that is Chris McNamara, otherwise known as Mac. So we didn't do much on the strategic planning for the last month. This is budget season. The item 5.5, we have 3 subsets to this item. 5.5.1 is there. Jason, scrolling up or down, however you want to look at it. So 5.5.1, basically, I mentioned this at least once or twice, or maybe even 3 times at the last few meetings, that we've proven that we can work remotely, and we do not have a policy to allow what we've been doing. And if you want to do things right, you adopt a policy and then you implement. Well, with COVID, we were forced out of the office in about 3 days, and then Jason and Kayla scurried to get 14 or so people set up at their home with computer tech, and they did a marvelous job. But we don't have a policy. So basically, what we have here is the suggestion to the commissioners to please allow us to adopt a flexible work locations policy entitled Hybrid Work Locations and Schedule Policy to be added to the MRPC personnel policies. Highlights of the policy include allowing people to work at flexible locations. There's only really 2 locations. It's either the office or the home. In other words, no wireless cafe, that kind of thing. The next bullet, while remaining consistent with a minimum 37.5 hours a week and 7.5 hours daily, basically offering to the employees flexible work schedule to enable the employee or employees seeking approval to still do their core hours and but still be able to work at home, because people, as we're transitioning in a, whatever you want to call this era, backslope of COVID, whatever you want to call it, the other side and so on, there are still issues that employees are facing. We have about 20 employees right now. About 7 of them have children at home from basically 17 down, ages 17 down, several school age. And in order to basically give the management and department heads flexibility to work with people, if they have children at home, et cetera, we really need a policy in place. There would be, on the top of page 4 now, there would be mandatory office presence of all employees working at the office Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, flexibility to work at home on Thursdays or Fridays or both. Other requirements are in the hybrid. Now, Jason, I think I sent the policy to you, but these is, yeah, I see it in your tab. Would you pull up the PDF for hybrid working policy? Thanks. So scouring, as we all do when we look for policies, and now, as a quick aside, we pay an annual subscription now of $850 to an entity, Eastern Association of New England, Employers Association of New England, or EANE. It's $850 a year to get an HR hotline call. I can call 5 times a day, and you're still paying that $850 a year. They have policies that they provide. You can find these online, and I found a good one that I thought was pretty tight, and I tailored it to our needs. Most of the stuff that we needed was there. I'm going to hit the highlights of this just going down, but basically the first paragraph just provides background. Why are we doing this? Because we've proven it can work. The pandemic forced us to do this, but the reality is having this policy in the future allows employees to have a little more flexible scheduling during the day if they have, bluntly, drop-off pickup of children in school, or they need to work at home for the day or at work. So this is the outline, this is the detailed policy, I say, which, if it's adopted by the commissioners tonight, allows the management to work with people through their situations. Jason, can you just scroll down a little bit to, just slowly, I'll try to find something, just hit some highlights on this. Right there, this paragraph, the policy establishes guidelines for administering, evaluating remote work requests or assignments. It says in here, I don't know if it's this paragraph or not, it says the ability to work remotely is not an entitlement or a benefit of employment. It does also say that the employee in question has to have a good work record to be able to enjoy this work assignment or work at home. Blessing by a department head and the executive director. Let's see, if you scroll down a little bit more, Jason, I'm just going to look for a couple of headings, hit a couple of highlights again. Let's see. You're back at the top. There you go. Employees have to comply with all of the existing personnel policies, even though they're at home. Eligibility, thanks, Jason. Eligibility about remote working arrangement, superior performance, I already really mentioned that. Occasional work remote. Jason, could you pull up that paragraph, please? So there's a section here for occasional work remote or routine work remote. Basically, flexibilities are built in where, you know, someone just needs to do this intermittently or routinely, you know, for a school semester. There's a schedule for a parent with children in school who are, you know, 4th and 7th grade, let's say. If you go down more, a little bit more, procedures for employees, the policy states very clearly what the employees are responsible to do. They can have a verbal discussion with the department head, and then they follow up by emailing the department head and then CCing the ED. The request is then followed up on. The department head responsibilities here. This is pretty clear. I really liked this policy. Number 3 under each department head. Department heads are responsible for number 3, ensuring that high level of service is maintained and that abuses of the policy do not occur. So I liked this policy because there are built-in checks and balances. Jason, please continue down. And I'll just say maybe one more thing on page 3 and then open it up to questions. Jason, could you scroll a little bit more? I'd like to look at the arrangement as intended to benefit the MRPC and its employees without putting undue burden or added expense on other employees' individual requirements or the services provided by the MRPC. So I can keep reading. I don't think you want me to do that. The reality is that this is a really pretty tight policy. I really like this one. As I said, I've tailored it to our needs, and this is something we can live with. Now, when you adopt a policy, the last thing I will say is that, you know, you test it for a year and you look back and you say, or 6 months, and you look back and say, after a certain amount of time, how did it work? Did it work well? What do we have to tweak? What did we not think of? There's always something that you write down and you didn't think of, and then you try to go back and say, oh, we can prove that, or that wasn't really valid or relevant or something like that. That's the gist of this item that we adopt this, and basically I'm looking for a resolution tonight to adopt the policy as presented. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, very good. Let me go back. I was on the policy. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Do you have the, Glenn, do you have the, oh, here we go. Actually, what I will do is read the resolution. Be it resolved that the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission approves of the Executive Director's recommendation to add the above. No, I might be on the wrong one. That is.
This doesn't have a written resolution. This is just basically adopt as presented. So if someone verbalizes that motion, we're okay.
Okay, very good. Do we have any discussion, any questions on this from any of the board members?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. So a couple of things. One, in the agenda notes, it says a presence Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Is that intended to read like full days in the office, or you have to show up for a certain amount of time and you can do the rest work from home?
That's intended. That's a great question. My screen is so small. I think that's Sean. I can't tell.
Yes, Sean. Yes.
Okay. Hi, Sean. All right, great. That's intended. Here's what we really need to do. We need to have everybody in the office 3 days a week, because what we're missing in the past 15 months is a disconnect with communications. And I fell into a conversation with a work colleague this afternoon, and we were kind of bemoaning the problem of just trying to set up a meeting, to have a meeting to talk about something. So we need to have some core working days, and that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, and then the Thursday, Friday is, you know, you can work at the office or you can work at home with pre-approval, because we're missing collaboration, we're missing expedition and communication. Those are really the two biggest things, and it's taking longer to resolve issues when we are working remotely. So I need the team together for a few core days, and that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I hope that answers your question, Sean.
That it definitely does. And then it kind of leads into so I'm definitely a person who works better in an office. So I'm very excited about going back to my day job office. But I think the pandemic has taught us one thing, that a hybrid model does work for a lot of people. In this policy, it says that you need to be an employee with an exemplary, you have to be like the best employee. So for people, like as a recruiting tool, or for people, is there like a probationary period before you could be determined to be like an exemplary employee before you would qualify for work from home?
So we do have a probationary period. It's 6 months from the date of start of employment. The employee is then reviewed at, let's say, 5.5 months by the supervisor. And let's say it's me reviewing someone. I don't have anybody to review right now that's on probation. So that has to happen then. And we can do periodic reviews, before that. Let's say, goodness forbid, this is a great question, Sean, because, Chris McNamara, Mac, is a brand new employee. Let's say COVID hits again, God forbid, Labor Day, and he's within his 6 months probationary period, okay? But we haven't reviewed him yet, but this becomes an issue. Well, Linda Quinlivan, his supervisor, would do a quick review of Chris with our evaluation criteria, our policy, in concordance with our policy, with the form that we have, and say, this person's working out okay, this person would be eligible, Glenn. I'm comfortable as the supervisor to allow this person to work at home. So, and that's how we would handle it that way. Flip side of the coin, I could soften the language a bit, but the language I've used, I was very surgical in that word choice to provide a statement to the employees that if you want something, you really do have to do a good job, or a very good job at least, to basically receive this privilege.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I also think that some of the language that might appear a little bit harsher, like the communication is necessary. I think that's another thing the pandemic has taught us, is a lot of people have kind of coasted by on their work from home. You're not necessarily getting the highest quality of work out of people. So I think it's important language to be in there.
Agreed, and thank you for noting.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, John. Anybody else?
I say,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Roger.
yeah, employee input, have they had input in this policy, or is it just department heads, or what's the process been in developing the policy?
I did research. I talked to the HR consultant hotline. I wrote the policy and presented it this evening. I've told the staff for many months that I was going to prepare a policy. I've had individual conversations, anecdotal conversations with individuals. We would fall into conversations, and also I pointedly asked certain people that, not by design at the beginning, but someone would be in the office and I would chat with them. Or I was in a Teams meeting with someone 3 months ago and I said, hey, by the way, you're a parent of children who are in grade school. I'm going to do this. These are some of the parameters I'm thinking about. So I've reached out to, can I quantify this? I've reached out to about 6 or 7 at least of the 20 people we have on staff now to get some feedback. So I didn't go in cold with this tonight, and that's been my that was my methodology, Roger. That's what I did.
Okay, thank you, Glenn.
Okay,
I
any
think
other?
this is a good jumping off point. Yeah, I'm thinking, it is good that the staff will get together on a regular basis and try this policy and see how it works. I think this is a good transition, and I would make a motion, we adopt this if we're at that point.
Okay, I have a motion.
I do have
John,
another.
any
I
other?
will second that.
Okay, that was Roger Holt or Rustberg.
Rustberg, second.
Okay, very good. Any more discussion on this? Whether people feel comfortable on it, they've seen enough of it, They've got a general overview of it to vote on it. Any questions?
I do.
Looks like Roger's got a question.
Yes, Roger, go right ahead.
I know prior to COVID, you had kind of a flexible workday hours where some staff came in earlier, very early, others more normal times and such. How does the presence on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for core hours and such affected by or affect the flexible daytime that's been the case in the past?
So we have core work hours that remains unchanged by the adoption of this policy. We have a separate flexible work schedule policy that remains unaffected by the adoption of this policy. Those are the two things I think you mentioned, Roger. If there's something else, please remind me. The bottom line is this policy is written in such a way so as to not conflict with the other issues you mentioned that are already in the policy. And a part of it, I'm going to go back to what I said a little earlier. Part of this is the learning curve. I don't see anything in this policy now that's going to directly butt heads with any of our other policies. But in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months after we, start signing approvals for some employees to work at home remotely, intermittently, or more regularly, then we might see some things that are, oh, gee, Glenn didn't think about that. And then I would come back to you at a commission meeting and I would tweak that and I would say, oh, I didn't think of that. I think we should change this. What do you think? Can we do this? But right now, this is intended to not conflict with anything else. And I don't see any conflicts in this over the past. I've been working with this particular model for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I've poured over the existing personnel policies. And the last thing I would say about that, Roger, this brings up a really good point, that in the next item 5.5.2, deletion of compensatory time, I'm recommending we delete that. We've talked about that at least one commission meeting. The deletion of compensatory time there are other places in the personnel policies where comp time is mentioned. So what I have to do is, if we adopt the deletion of comp time now, then what would happen is I have to do a housekeeping policy amendment for the July 8th meeting. So, but in this case, for the hybrid work, I don't see any conflict. For deletion of comp time policy, I don't see any conflict, but I have to do some other edits to other parts of the policy throughout. I think it's like 3 or 4 places comp time is mentioned throughout the overall policy, so I'd have to delete that kind of thing.
Another comment is, do we want to set a time frame for when we get a report back from you on how this policy is working? Do we say such maybe in 3 months we get a status update on it, and maybe in 6 months we tweak it or whatever if necessary? But how do members feel that we should evaluate this at some point?
I think you
I
need
think that,
a six.
I think
a
your
longer time
suggestion
than
would
3
be
months.
fine.
go ahead, whoever, John or Russ.
I think more than 3 months would be a better time period. To give us some seasonal impacts of how this works.
To follow up on that, it will be different data, from the summer versus the fall, because summer no school, but some people will have some daycare issues. Fall will be school. So whatever dates you want, I'll give you an update. No problem.
No, I can see, I agree, but I think 3 months might, we could identify any little things that might have popped up. So I think we should stick with the 3 months.
I think if even if perhaps after 3 months for the first quarter, it might be interesting to be able to compare summer to then we would be in the middle of the winter, to see what the changes into, and just even if we're able to see how many people take advantage of this policy. And even if we're not making any recommendations for changes to it until well after 6 or 9 months, but just like some data on who's taking advantage of it or how many people are, and how it's going.
Yeah, actually, I'm
So
curious, Glenn, do you have any preliminary, information on how many employees might take advantage of this?
I would say more than 50%.
Okay.
Okay, so if I hear correctly, the board would like you to report back on this about every 3 months to see if there's any change between the seasons? Is that that's the impression I'm getting?
Right, and how it's going.
Okay, very good. Quick question also, Glenn. Now, you said we'll be going back the beginning of July, back to our regular schedule, more or less. So this will become effective sometime around that period?
This is intended to go into effect for the beginning of the fiscal year for July 1st.
Okay, very good.
Yep. You can change that. You can say, Eaton, make it happen tomorrow or next Monday. It really, it almost doesn't matter right now when we started, as long as we do it relatively soon, because we're coming out of the state of emergency. Well, that's gone as of May 29. And, the directives I issued for everybody to work at home last March 13, technically, if you want to be a lawyer about it, aren't really in effect anymore. So, really the sooner the better is just fine. And that way we can start, addressing these, I mean, next week. Because people do have, this, I mean, what's today, the 3rd, school's out around the 20th. I mean, honestly, right now I'm just handling people's, kind of day job stuff with, well, I asked you to volunteer to come back to the office May 10. I'm requiring everybody to come back July 12. We need to get back to normal, some normalcy. But Glenn, recognizes this need to, have some flexibility in a policy we've never had. And Glenn was wrong that a work at home policy wouldn't work before the pandemic. And Glenn has done a 180, and this can work, and it's done well. So let's have some flexibility. So whatever date you choose is fine. You can say it's adopted tonight, Glenn, that starts tomorrow morning when you get to the office. That's perfectly fine. Or you could say July 12th when it's mandatory for people to come back, or July 1.
I think July 1 sounds good, because it'll give people a chance between the 1st and the 12th to do some scheduling on being in the office or being out of the office as necessary.
Yeah.
Not hearing any objections. Any other questions in this? Because we do have a motion on the floor to accept it. I guess if we have no other questions, I'll call the roll and see if it gets accepted. No questions.
Was it seconded?
Alan Pease,
Aye.
how do you vote? Please? Yeah, it was seconded. Bill Lefty,
Aye.
Dean Valier,
Aye.
Guy Corbicero votes aye. John Telepiak,
Lepsiak, aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye.
Matthew Brenner,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Roger Hoyt, aye.
Russ Williston,
Aye.
Russell Burke,
Aye.
and Sean Copeland.
Aye.
Now, if I did not miss anybody, this resolution passes unanimously. Glenn, back to you.
Thank you all, and thank you all for the input. I really appreciate that. I don't want to work in a vacuum with these more important matters.
Mr.
Next item,
Chairman,
5 point. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman and Glenn, how does that affect us? How does this affect the commission? Would we meet in person?
that was going to be,
Actually, if I could address that,
Please.
as of the 15th, we do have to meet in person. But the governor has indicated that he is going to make some adjustments to his order, ending the order. So it's possible coming down the road in the next 2 weeks that he might say we can meet for the next 6 months. But till that time, as of June 15th, all boards will go back to the regular open meeting laws that we went on before the governor's March 12th order.
Good.
Mr.
I
Chairman?
know that, if I can speak to this, we had mentioned this partway through, I don't know, within the last six or 8 months, that this was working pretty good and maybe we continue to be remote. But I think the meeting in person, there's a lot of good that can come out of the commissioners meeting once a month. Exchange of ideas, getting to know people and things. I think that it'll be a good thing that we start meeting again in person.
And as of now, the open meeting law would not allow us to meet like we're meeting after the 15th unless the governor makes some adjustments or the legislature.
Sure.
You do have
All right.
remote participation, correct?
Right.
By an
I'm
individual
sorry, I missed
member,
that.
so that. as
Yes,
long as
MRPC
it's-
adopted that policy.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Mr.
this
Chairman.
is Bill Alfke. My question is, could we continue to have remote participation through GoToMeeting, even with the people, some people going to the site, but not everybody?
We would
As long as we meet the quorum requirement of 5 people in the physical location, which is what the open meeting law says, then
You
we're
are
fine. As long as the government entity adopted a policy to do so, and we did so several years ago.
Okay.
So if 5 of you show up at the office the first Thursday of every month, I think there's 12 people here tonight. The other 7 could remote in, as an example, Bill.
I would propose that we continue doing that because there will be some of us that would, I personally would like to continue remote. Nothing to do with COVID, but it's easier than driving to Fitchburg. And, you know, I'm sure there's others who have longer trips that might be easier to remote. And I'm getting used to it.
Yes.
Yeah, that we can do because we did adopt a policy for remote participation. Again, as long as we have a quorum in the physical location, the rest of you can tap in via GoToMeeting or however we want to do it, or by telephone.
Okay, great.
Mr.
Glenn,
Chairman?
I just want to interrupt you. Is there any requirements for when a member can participate remotely in our policy?
We just follow the open meeting law. So we don't have any policy on the meetings. If we just follow the open meeting law. So we opted in to accept remote meeting participation way before the pandemic happened. Jason, very quickly, yes, I'm going to mention that technology, FYI. So like I said, if there are 2 pieces of legislation that are filed right now, one in the House, one in the Senate. And I think that the purpose of those pieces of legislation are intended to do something halfway between the open meeting law requiring everyone to be there or with remote participation and what we have now with everybody on the screen chiming in and there's nobody at the office, the lights are off. I don't know what the status of those pieces of legislation, what the status is. I'm going to find out before the next meeting and report back. But at the very least, if nothing changes, we have the remote participation that we can, that we are allowed to do. We adopted that under the open meeting law. And as I said, if using the example tonight, we have about 12 people remoting in, 12 commissioners, 12 communities. And if 5 of you go to the office, then the other 7 could chime in. It'll be interesting to see the email traffic. Are you going? Are you going? I'm going to remote in. I can't make it. So it's going to take. We're going to have a transition period to see what it's going to look like. It's going to be interesting. But we're allowed to do that under the open meeting law. We can do that. Jason sent me a message, and I am going to mention this. And then Laura's been trying to chime in, so I want to get to her question. So about sometime during COVID, I don't remember when, Jason and Brad and I chatted. They came to me with a piece of technology, and it's called the Owl. And the Owl is a camera that you put on the middle of a conference room table, and who's ever talking. Let's say we have 5 commissioners at the meeting in July, and let's say that I'm remoting in because I'm on vacation, and then 7 other people are remoting in. What the Owl does is it provides the people who are remoting in with who's talking at the conference table. It picks up on them. So it's a decent piece of technology. It's affordable, and it's something that we can easily buy, set up, and use. Jason, we might have to set up an extra monitor or 2 on the walls. If we can get some Walmart specials or something, that'd be great. But we might need to do a little tech improvement. I don't think it's really a problem. So we have to, I think it would be wise for us to do that tech improvement called the Owl. If anybody wants to look up Owl camera, Owl conference meeting room camera, Jason, if you want to put a link in the chat window, it'd be great. And I'd like to stop talking, and I know Laura's been trying to ask or say something. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to throw my time at Laura if she still has a burning question.
Yes, I've been trying to make the comment that was just made in reference to being able to keep hybrid meetings. There's 22 people on the call tonight. I think if you did went back in history and did a little chart of in-person meetings versus the Zoom meetings that we've had the last few months, this last year, the participation would be higher than they were before. And I think that by negating it totally, I think we're doing a disservice, because this has allowed more people to participate, and that's what you want. So I hope that, I know that, for instance, condo associations are actually passing bylaws to allow for virtual meetings. And I'm on one of them, and we get far more participation of the owners when we allow a Zoom type of meeting. So I would be very much in favor of keeping that opportunity there for the representatives of each of the towns.
Actually, that would be great, Laura, if Governor Baker or the legislature votes it in, but right now we have to follow the open meeting law, where a condo association really doesn't. And that's where we're in a bit of a different situation, but I got a feeling that Governor Baker will extend what we're doing right now probably till the 1st of September, I'm hoping, so that the legislature can do their due diligence and pass the appropriate legislation.
Well, I go back to what Glenn said. If you just have 5 board members that are in the room, and I'm sure that everybody can take a turn now and then, that it would allow the other members to legally still participate by Zoom, and we should consider that.
Yeah, great. Hopefully that question will be moot, and Governor Baker will help us out here. Okay, any other discussion on this, or do you want to get back to 5.52? As I said, we just have to wait till the 15th to see what Governor Baker does by then. So, Glenn, it's back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5.5.2, deletion of compensatory time benefit from the MRPC personnel policies and employee procedures handbook as amended. So after the audit was done by Roland Lambalot in the March window this year of FY 20, Linda Quinlivan and Linda Parmenter did analysis of and looked at the accrual time of the compensatory time, and they recommended, and I agree, that if we continue with continue accruing comp time, if we continue maintaining this policy, then we'll have less control basically over our overhead rate. We are trying to have more control over our overhead rate. We are trying to have more control over expenses. And so we had at least one meeting probably in the April window of this calendar year. And then I said, you know, I wasn't shy about, you know, telling whoever wanted to listen. And I believe I mentioned it to the commissioners at least at one meeting since then, that deleting the comp time policy would help us reduce the overhead rate in the long term. A quick aside, you will see tonight that we have a very solid budget going into FY22, including 2 variables under 5.7, recommendation to promote 4 people for taking on extra work and moving up the organizational chart, or up the chain, if you will. And then within the budget, increasing the salaries of about 4 other people. And we, to get to the compensation study that we adopted to get people closer to the market rate, because some of those salaries of 4 people are still askew. And we still have a good budget, but if we can better control some of these other costs, it's helpful. The comp time benefit deletion, I'll read a couple paragraphs quickly. The agency should implement changes to better control overhead rate. I'm recommending the deletion of the comp time benefit from the MRPC personnel policies and employee procedures handbook as amended. The recommendation of the commissioners is supported by myself and the fiscal manager and the administrative HR director. The addition of the hybrid work locations policy will accommodate adjustments to the weekly schedule of the employees. What that basically means is that the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission doesn't have a comp time policy. That's one bullet. Second bullet is what they do is that what I explain here in this middle paragraph, if you want to read it, where it says the addition of through 75 hours 2-week payroll period. What they basically have is, look, work your 7.5 core hours each day, work your 37.5 core each week, work your 75 core each 2 weeks, because that's our payroll period every 2 weeks. And I give you an example in bullets, and my phone is ringing. I'm sorry, bear with me. I'm just going to talk through it. I'm sorry about the phone. I give you an example of how we would deal with an employee who says, I've got a couple of night meetings. When do I take my time off? Take the time off within the 37.5 or take it within the 75. So that's how we would work it. I think what a lot of people forget is that, and myself included, exempt employees, you have exempt employees and you have non-exempt employees. Non-exempt employees are those that are paid hourly. The exempt employees are those that it says 37.5, but you can have those people work 80 hours a week for justifiable reasons. So the reality is that here, that's reality. That's the law in the United States. That's the federal law. The last thing I want to say about deletion of the comp time policy is that the comp time accrued right now, if this passes tonight and comp time goes away as of July 4th, the resolution's on the following. No, this is an as presented also. This is an as presented resolution. If it goes away, I'd recommend it going away as of the end of this fiscal year, beginning of July 1st, if you will. And that anybody who has accrued time, they'd be allowed to carry it over for like 90 days from tonight. Basically, give people enough time to let's say somebody has 20 hours and this passes tonight. Well, they have to take 3 days off between now and June 30. That's not really 100% fair. I work with a good team of people, and I didn't come up with that one on my own. Holly Ford thought of that today or yesterday, and I thought that was a great idea. Give people a little more time to take their comp time. Let them take it through the summer. But if we continue to have this, this is going to be, it's just going to continue to affect our overhead rate. So basically, based on the audit and management met, this is the recommendation that we're making. And that was my wife calling from her job, and I'm just gonna make sure it's not an emergency. So I'm gonna mute myself. So sorry. But please ask questions because my ears work.
Do we have any questions? As you said, I know Holly's here, so maybe she can answer if Glenn's tied up or, my question, Holly, can you answer questions, Holly?
I can try.
Okay, very good. So, as I see here, previous to them having to work in the evening, they have to request, well, I want to take the following Wednesday off or things like that. Is that how it works I see here? Or?
You know,
Yes.
everything really comes down to communication. I'm sorry, I'm back. Holly, go ahead.
Oh, no,
So-
go ahead, Glenn.
That's just that simple. I'm basically suggesting that we just, you know, basically we're looking at the CMRPC system. Several people on our staff are aware of that. It's just, you know, work your time within your week, work your time within your 2 weeks. Just stay in touch with your supervisor. That's really all it comes down to. But, you know, to really, you know, manage that, you know, don't not communicate. I hate double negatives, I'm sorry, but don't not communicate with your supervisor on something. It's Monday morning. Hey, you know, my name's Kayla and I work under Jason. Geez, you know, boss, I got 2 night meetings, Tuesday and Wednesday with Karen Chapman in Air and Townsend. Can I take Friday afternoon off? And Jason, being the very nice person that he is, will probably say yes. So that's all I'm really talking about. Let's work with each other and just get through the week by week. It's pretty straightforward.
And Glenn, I think it's important to note too that most of the meetings that we go to, we would know ahead of time. There is occasionally a project that comes up that we're not expecting or something like that. But most of the meetings, unless you're covering for someone who's sick, you know about ahead of time.
That's very well said. Very well said.
Thank you, Holly.
Glenn, I actually
Any-
had a question. I know we sort of discussed this at one point, and quite frankly, I forget where we landed with it. But I know there really aren't, you know, in our line of work and planning, there's really not a lot of, you know, planning emergencies that happen. But I'm trying to forecast, you know, if there's IT emergencies that require, you know, whatever, extra work. And then other IT related projects that might need to be done on off hours, like over weekends and things like that. I guess those could be planned ahead, but I'm more thinking about like IT emergencies. How would stuff like that be handled?
And those happen. I think what we, bottom line to Jason's question and to all the employees and all the commissioners, I think what we have to do is, you know, I mean, I can get buried in policies and the syllables and the pixelated data. I think what we just really have to do is, you know, I'm just going to answer your question directly, Jason. If you say, as an example, you know what, Glenn, I got an IT thing I just got to do. Something just came up. It's Thursday afternoon. It'll take me all day Saturday. You know, my wife and kids are going to be at the mom's. I got 12 hours and I can work at home and do this. Then I think in those cases, I think bottom line is that I'd rather not write up a policy for every little thing that comes up, but I'd rather just be, you know, a good manager and say, you know what, Jason? Yeah, I know you probably won't be able to take those 12 hours off the next week because maybe that's the second week of a 2-week payroll system. I'll tell you what, can you take 4 off and then we can push the other 8 to maybe the next 2 weeks or something like that? I think as long as we, again, it comes down to communication. If we're fair as supervisors with our staff and we try to just address these issues as they come up, that's how I would handle that, honestly, Jason. Or you might say, oh, it's Thursday, I can do this thing on Saturday for 12 hours. I can't take any of those 12 hours in the next week. But the following week or two, you know what? That's when I'm going to go visit my mom. And, you know, kind of use some of these hours for then. Now, being a manager, I'm not the fiscal manager over there saying, oh, Fred, how are we going to track this? So I don't want to speak that everything's perfect on Linda Quinn-Liven's behalf. But I think we can find a way to get through this. We might muddle through, we might struggle. I think it'll be pretty straightforward to do.
Yeah, I think almost everything can be planned ahead of time. I just wanted to make sure that there was some type of flexibility in emergency situations. That's all.
I have learned, Jason, and everybody on the call, and anybody who isn't on the call, the reality is that, you know, Glenn was a stick in the mud before the pandemic about work at home, okay? And then I saw it worked. It's been working for 15 months, it'll be 16 really, probably, but before we're all back in the office. And Glenn Eaton had to learn to be a better manager and grow professionally and understand that this can work. You know what, if we just communicate and talk to each other, because we had no policy to do what we've been doing for the last 15 months. It was, he shut down the state. You know, we shut down our office before he really shut down the state. And Jason and Kayla, you did incredible work to get us all set up in our couches and kitchen tables and stuff. But we got through that. And I think with that esprit de corps, I think with that spirit, we can get through stuff like this. So I promise to be reasonable. And the older I get, the more reasonable I get. So I think you're okay, Jason. And I think everybody's going to be reasonably okay. Commissioners, though, chime in, please, as needed.
Actually, so this is Guy Corbisiero. So there would be some flexibility, such as take time off within the 2-week payroll period where feasible. You know, sometimes it's not feasible to take it then. It might be the day after the 2-week period. Would that flexibility be there?
Yes, I was just about to write that into the. I love that statement. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. Try to take that time off, you know, within the following period, within 30 days.
Yeah.
Maybe 25. But let's manage our time and take that time. And honestly, time off is very important for people that might have a 12-hour IT. I'm going to call it, Jason, I'm going to call it an emergency. If something pops up, you got to do something reasonably quickly that you can't plan over 6 months. And you know, that's life. That's life in offices with IT and computers. And that happens. So I think we have to be reasonable. So, Guy, you want to say that again? I'd love to type that into the chat function.
Just be able to take time off within each work period, payroll period when feasible, or something to that effect.
Now I can just issue a directive. If this gets deleted tonight, if the commissioners approve to delete the content policy, then I can just write a simple follow-up memo to the staff and say 3 sentences. You know, there was not any disagreement to the statement of the chairman to do this, to be reasonable, and this is how we're going to handle requests. And I'm going to be as flexible as I can, as so long as all the employees we're working together to get our jobs done as expeditiously as we can, et cetera. Emergencies will crop up. We'll handle them as they come up. So, Jason, I think you had a great question because they do come up. No, there's not a planning board emergency. They're all posted. But with IT, with other stuff, with whatever, weather, with pandemics, there's always stuff that can pop up. It's a fantastic conversation.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we vote to delete the compensatory time benefit from the MRPC personnel policies procedure handbook as amended, including the tweaks that we just discussed this evening.
Great. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, that is Peter Cunningham. Okay, any more discussion on this?
I have just one more kind of
This is
question.
John Flopsiak.
Go ahead, John.
Right.
John?
I was just gonna say, like, in any situation, communication is key. So as long as you guys are communicating what's going on and so forth, I think that'll eliminate a lot of stumbling blocks.
Great, thank you,
That was
John. Sean, you had something?
Yeah, just for when you're writing, I think, and I don't know if it is clear already, but it doesn't seem, but that the time has to follow the days after the extent, like you can't say you want to take a couple hours on Monday for a meeting that hasn't happened yet. Is that correct? Okay, I
John,
think
that is correct. The earning of the time, the extraordinary time night meeting, as an example, has to happen and take place before you want to take the time off. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that was, especially where you're doing estimations of time, when you're requesting it. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. If I don't hear any other questions, I'll call the roll. And we'll start with Sean
Aye.
Copeland.
Aye.
Russ Burke.
Aye.
Russ Wilson.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yep, Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
John Telepiak.
Slapsiak,
Guy Corbisaro votes aye. Dean Valier.
Aye.
Bill Olefke.
Aye.
And Alan Pease.
Aye.
If I did not miss anyone, then the resolution motion passes unanimously. Okay, very good. Glenn, back to you on your next item on the agenda, which is 5.5.3.
The 5.543 is, so this was intended originally to be a bunch of housekeeping policies. I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have to come back and do some minor edits throughout the whole personnel policy of, okay, if comp time is deleted from the personnel policy and it's mentioned in 3 other places, then I just need to clean up the policy. So just, that's a mental note for the July meeting or the August meeting that'll present that and just get that housekeeping policies amendments completed. But I had a placeholder here for it, so I thought for at least, oh God, at least 9 years, I've been wanting to ask the commissioners to put in inserting a definition for the term insubordination. Basically, the report and resolution are executive director recommends the addition of the following definition of insubordination in the MRPC personnel policies and employee procedures handbook as amended to the list of reasons for implementing progressive discipline and or termination of employment. That's the definition indented. I got that from our new HR consultant, which is, then I Googled about 10 and they're all pretty consistent. The ED will recommend housekeeping additions, which I just said at the upcoming meeting on July 8th. I did put it in here. The resolution be it resolved, the MRPC approves the ED's recommendation to add the above definition of insubordination to the MRPC's personnel policies and employee procedures handbook as amended to the list of reasons for implementing progressive discipline and or termination of employment. It's cleanup time. What I've learned, what's some of the backdrop. So I've been wanting to do this a long time. That's one bullet. The other bullet is that with the departure, retirement of Linda Parmenter, Administrative and Human Resources Director, then we paid $850 to have a subscription with Employers Association of New England, EANE. They're based in Agawam. They have a hotline I can call 3 times a day. So basically, I've tried to make sure that we have consistency in a good, solid recommendation for a place to go, a go-to place. Because as Linda Parmenter leaves, Linda Quinlivan's going to take on more duties. Holly Ford's going to take on more duties. I'm going to take on HR, basically, which is in my job description anyway. We've had the blessing to have Linda Parmenter with us for 4 decades. So really, it's kind of house cleaning time. The house cleaning stuff that I want to do for the July 8th. Also, Linda's on a well-deserved vacation right now, Linda Parmenter. She comes back and she's going to be with us for about 2 to 2.5 weeks before she retires. Her last day is the 29th. She'll be officially retired the 30th of June. but I want her input on those things. And so that's the background on why to do this. And I just want to get these things done sooner than later.
So
So thank you for your time.
we're moving this resolution to July then, is what I hear from you.
No, this one I'd like to do tonight. But
Oh,
there'll
okay.
be others, there'll be other housekeeping that I'll come back with for July 8th.
Okay, Glenn has already read the resolution to you, so. Any more questions, or do I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution?
Move we adopt.
Russ Burke motioned. Do I have a second?
John Telesiak seconds.
Okay,
John
very good. We
Telesiak.
have a motion. Second. Any more discussion on this? Any questions from anybody? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Alan Pease.
Aye.
Bill Lefke.
Aye.
Dean Valier.
Aye.
Guy Corbisiero votes aye. John Telepiak.
Telesiak, aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
I'll abstain.
Russ Williston.
Aye.
Russell Burke.
Aye.
Sean Copeland.
Aye.
And the resolution passes with one abstention. Okay, very good. Glenn, back to 5.6, budget approval.
So as I indicated earlier, I want to, and Jason, you can stay on 5.6 because I'd like to give the backdrop for the budget and then move on to 5.7 before we adopt the budget for 5.6, because there are promotions that I want to propose under 5.7. And I think it's just more appropriate to deal with the promotions and then the budget versus adopting the budget, which would include the promotions. So I think we should do it 5.7 first. But let me give the backdrop, if I may, under 5.6, the FY22 budget approval required. The report is basically that the MRPC's FY22 budget, we complied with the federal statutory requirement in February by providing a revenue estimate in February. We provided you with a draft in May, about a month ago. Tonight, the management team is proposing the final version for adoption by the commissioners. As stated in May 21, management will provide quarterly budget updates throughout FY22. I think actually when you see the spreadsheet for the budget that Linda Quinlivan finished today, I think you'll actually see, revisit in August or something like that. So that's a really good process where we want to start implementing and stick with. Going down to the bullets, basically the 22 budget's healthy. 1A, projected revenue, as we always do. This is almost a copy and paste. I don't copy and paste it, but this is the same stuff I say every year, almost verbatim. Projected revenues conservatively low. Funding sources are either already under contract or have a very high likelihood of being awarded to the MRPC within this fiscal year, i.e. MassDOT. MassDOT's been awarded to the commission for, I don't know, probably when I was in my single digits here in Templeton. So, and I'm getting older every day. So expenses have, 1B, expenses have been calculated to meet expectations of reopening the office, but are not exorbitant by any means. The admin expenses that you'll see, there are only a couple that we pushed up beyond what we expended last year, and that's in the equipment area. We're going to need a new copy printer scanner. The one that we have now is X years old. I'm not sure of the date, the vintage. If Linda Quinlivan remembers, that's great. but we bought it quite some time ago. So our newest printer is in the 6 to 10 years. Jason, you may remember too. If anybody remembers, chime in, that's great. The other printer we have, we bought about 15 years ago. And they're basically old technology. I mean, it's like having an Edsel or a Model T. They work, but in this case, they're going to break down any day, we think, or maybe within the fiscal, maybe within 2, maybe tomorrow. We don't know. So those capital improvements need to be made. We need to get one printer to replace the 2 that we have. I'm just saying that there are very little margins for error. We may need to make adjustments through the year. Then fine, if we do, we'll come back to you and ask for provide justification, and then we'll ask for money to do something if we need to. Item 2 on the top of page 6, Transportation Department, in addition to Planning and Development Department, has pivoted to bringing in additional revenue available from new state and federal grant sources. So that's really a very good thing for our Transportation Department. They pursued at least Brad and Sherry, and if other people contributed, then I'm sorry, I don't know, to writing a planning assistance grant on behalf of Phillipston, and submitted it last Friday or the Friday before. And they're pursuing, the acronym is RAISE, R-A-I-S-E, federal funding. And I'm going to cough and come. Sorry about that. So transportation is basically going to pursue new revenue versus just having the MassDOT contract come to us every year. They're going to go be competitive, which is great, which is what we need to do. First of all, we need to provide services to our clients. That's what our statutory obligation is. And if that means going out to find more money to do it, then that's what we should be about. Item 4, the salaries budget reflects 4 promotions, 4 staff under 5.7, we'll get to that in a minute, and increases to another 4 employees to bring them in line with the market rate for similar positions at other regional planning agencies per the MRPC's compensation plan previously adopted. All employees and commissioners are reminded that no new salary increases will be provided to employees unless the performance of the employees is sufficient enough to warrant the increases. In parentheses, all employee evaluations will be completed by June 25th, 2021. So even though it's in the budget, you can't assume you're going to get it if you're an employee, because we have to go finish the evaluation process, I should say. There's a little snapshot of what you'll see later of that SNP image. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason did the right thing. I didn't read something. The overhead rate's been estimated to be about 127%, down from the audited rate of 140%, and consistent with the FY21 requested overhead rate of 130, and the agency's 25-year average rate, which I think it's more like 30. Both median averages, ironically, came out to be 125%. So we're getting back in the ballpark, where we really need to be. Jason, if you could scroll a little bit, please, sir, we'll pull up that snipped image. And what you're seeing in the snipped image is basically the bottom line of the budget that we'll pull up in after we deal with 5.7. And you can see there's some of the numbers that I'm talking about. So you see total expenses on what says, this is a snip image out of the Excel spreadsheet, row 91, total expenses, a little under 1.9 million, estimated surplus deficit in the negative 55,699.13. And then there's the math for projecting an overhead rate of about the 127%. I had a chat with Linda Quinlivan today, and if you want to do math in your head, and I know we have some great engineers in the room, but take the $55,000, divide it into the 1.869, and I think that's south of 5%. Historically, if the MRPC's budget in June that we want to adopt for the upcoming fiscal year, if that estimated surplus or deficit, usually a projected deficit, because you don't have all the dollars you need for the whole year yet, if that's under 20%, you can make it through the year. You're okay with raises, without whatever, as long as people go out and get the money to fill the gap for the 20%. So it's never been a problem in the past. There was a problem, and I mention this occasionally. We had a projected deficit of 37% about 7 years ago, and that 37% gap wasn't filled by people that really needed to go out and find the money. A lot of things happened. It just didn't work. So I had to lay off 5 people. But if you're, I think this is around 3 or 5%. If you're under 20%, you can fill the 20%. That's pretty standard. And we have historical numbers on that. The next page, I like to do this. I don't take the time every year to do this, but I like to do a quick spot. Strengths of the budget on the next page. Jason, if you'd scroll down. He can't. I'll read them to you. Oh, maybe he's not there. Oh, he's back. Thanks, Jay. Okay, strengths. Virtually all the funding needed for the current employees is under contract or soon will be under contract. Weaknesses. Virtually all funding realized by MRPC is subject to appropriation, quote unquote, by communities, the Commonwealth, and the federal government, which can be countered by pursuing the nonprofit funding sources such as Tufts. I won't use the phrase I use every year, so I won't bore you to death with that. But if we continue to find other funding sources that are non-governmental, that'll help. Opportunities, pursue the nonprofit funding sources. Due to the pandemic, it's amazing how much business we earned through, and I have a visitor at my front door and the dogs are gonna bark. So if that happens, I'm just gonna ask you to read this, then I'll go to 5.7. But it's amazing how much business we got in the last 12 to 15 months. Existing communities wanted to ask for repeat business. New contracts came out of the blue. A community called us and asked us to do their open space and recreation plan. That was great. We haven't heard from them in a while. We reached out to some communities. That was successful. Bluntly, Federal CARES Act money came and gave us $400,000 to spend over 2 fiscal years, 21 and 22. So, but it's not always pennies for heaven. So you always need to be aware of the weaknesses and the threats. You know, one of our clients has indicated that they don't want to pay the overhead rate that we have. And this current fiscal year, when I signed the contract last year, they dictated an overhead rate. We lost money. We cannot continue to do that. I'm not going to have a public discussion about the client right now. It's inappropriate. I have to talk to the client first and see if they're willing to pay the correct overhead rate. If not, it's a loser to the organization, and I cannot sign contracts where we're losing money. That just cannot happen. Second bullet under threats, all relevant staff must continue to devise new services to be delivered. This is our job, you know, and go out and find the money to do it. And then we can't rest on laurels, and we have to make sure that we don't have non-performance. Again, I hate the double negatives. There is a resolution to adopt the budget, but I'd like to explain 5.7 if I may first, Mr. Chairman, and then
yes.
we'll back. Thank you. So 5.7, I've mentioned it at least a couple times during the meeting tonight, that with the departure, there are really two things going on here. We have a departure of a person and responsibilities of works going to 2 other people, and that's additional to their job descriptions. And I'm recommending promotions for them and being compensated at a higher level for each of them. Then we have an IT issue, the pandemic, and I may ask Jason to field the questions on the IT because I don't understand his jargon as well as he and Kayla do. But we have Jason and Kayla who were absolutely incredible. I mean, I didn't know what they did, and I still don't know everything because I wasn't them for the last 15 months, and I wasn't at their computer. But the jobs that they did through the pandemic to get us all set up at home. And then Jason and I talked recently, and I thank him for kind of enhancing the explanation of Barbar. Things are going to be different for tech, you know, with whatever, ransomware threats, and just having to provide more tech services to people working inside, outside, and so on and so forth. So if there are questions of the tech issue, I will defer to Jason. But 5.7.1 is a recommendation to promote Linda Quinlivan from fiscal manager to fiscal director. Basically, this is, as I said, we're shifting some responsibilities. In this case, Linda Quinlivan's taking on some more responsibilities. That's why she would go up in the organizational chart. And I'm recommending a promotion to her to that new title to be paid $81,700 commencing July 1st, which is the beginning of the fiscal year. A job description does exist for the position of fiscal director. Please be advised. Let me explain the other 3, and then Guy and the commissioners pepper with questions or take the votes you want or don't want. 5.7.2 would be the executive director's recommendation to promote Holly Ford from executive assistant to an administrative manager. So Linda Parmenter met with each of us individually and collectively over the last 2 to 3 months, at least, let's say. And the first meeting I had with Linda was, Glenn, I'm retiring. Okay. And then 2 weeks later, it was, here's 3 pieces of paper of all the stuff I do: HR, fiscal support, and I'm going to say admin. And those tasks, and they were double-sided each piece of paper, if I remember correctly, of all the stuff that, and I'm not talking about answering a phone, but legitimate stuff for compliance with laws and regulations and doing all sorts of stuff to comply with policies and so on and so forth. So the HR was relatively easy, outsourced to a consultant. Glenn, that's in your job description anyway. If you didn't have a Linda, you'd be doing HR. Okay, great, fine. The admin tasks really need to go to, the majority of these would go, and Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, to Holly with a new role. And as administrative manager, a new job description has been created for that position for her, and to compensate her at $60,000 as of July 1st. And then the fiscal support that Linda Parmenter has been providing to Linda Quinlivan since Linda Q was hired about 3 years ago. I'm going to say this out loud once, Linda Q, and then if I say it wrong, correct me later, okay? That we've hired a part-time fiscal assistant in Chris McNamara. See, Chris, I said your name, Mac, right that time. And so we have to pick up that support that Linda's P's been giving to Linda Q with a new 3-day-a-week person. Linda Q, did I say that reasonably okay?
You did, Glenn.
Okay, all right, thank you. Trust
Thank
me,
you.
I need a lot of correction sometimes. I'm happy to receive it. So that's the gist with admin and fiscal. I'm gonna stop talking with my hands. 5.7.3, Executive Director recommendation promote Kayla Kress from GIS analyst to GIS and IT analyst. The bottom line is that, you know, I don't know how it originally started. I'll defer to Jason and Kayla, but the reality is that Kayla stopped being a GIS analyst. I'm going to guess well over a year ago. I'm going to guess she volunteered. Jason and she talked. Jason can fill us in. Kayla can fill us in. But Kayla has grown. She's been with us, I think Kayla told me today, for about 5 years. Nod or throw grapes at the screen. Whatever you're going to do, Kayla. Is that 4 or 5? That's 4? Okay, 4. Okay, coming. Your microphone was over your thumb. I couldn't tell. The reality is that Kayla's shown tremendous growth. She's growing into IT to be supportive to all the staff, including and Jason as the GIS and IT director. And so, you know, I can't speak highly enough of all of these people, but you know, and including Kayla, who's done a lot. Now, this job description, basically, I would have to write up by June 30. I would give myself a deadline more like, you know, June 15 to get that done, because I want to get it done sooner than later. The last one is Jason Stanton. He does more than push buttons for go-to meetings, for commission meetings. But there's so much more that IT is doing. What I'd like to do is basically promote Jason. He's making about, you know, 70. He would make 79 basically as of July 1st, which is almost 80, and I'm saying bump him to 85. So that's the gist of the 4. To basic, people are taking on roles, they're growing. This is what's going on with these folks. So that's the background for the 4 promotions. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, could I turn a little bit of this over to Jason? And if he could talk about some of the IT stuff, I think that would be relevant and important for the commissioners to hear from him.
You get the floor, Jason.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you know, we didn't have a choice in shifting how we operated, of course, going from the office to our couches and kitchen tables, like Glenn had mentioned. But then we had we were beginning a transition point to begin with, in changing some of our server infrastructure. But then we sort of rethought how we needed to operate in this new pandemic/post-pandemic world. And so we have, you know, changed the way that we operate almost entirely, in the sense that, you know, we've replaced desktops with laptops to be more portable. We've started using a VPN to connect to all of our data so that people can work, you know, just as well at home as they can in the office or in a meeting or whatnot. And with that, so not necessarily what has been in the past, because there was certainly points during the pandemic where 90% of my time was spent on IT, when that's not normally what happens. But, you know, in the past, pre-pandemic, I spent about 20% of my time doing IT related tasks. And my guess is, I think as things start evening out, I'm finding I'm probably going to be spending more about 40% of my time on doing IT related tasks. And a lot of that is sort of user support, user education, but a lot of it is also, okay, there's the technological world sort of exploding in this area of, like, online meetings and things, and the new bells and whistles and widgets, closed captioning and recording meetings and things like that. So trying to stay ahead of the curve of, okay, how are we going to do this moving forward? Kind of like all of a sudden we had to figure out, how are people going to communicate when they're not in the office? Oh, let's use Teams because this is already built in platform to our Office 365. So I'm trying to keep up, or we are trying to keep up with, emerging trends, understanding the new technology, and then relaying that information to our end users and supporting all of their needs. And then if I could just very quickly go back to something that Glenn was saying. Yeah, I mean, it's been at least a year where, I sort of had this conversation with Kayla, where, it's sort of this natural fit, GIS and IT, because we just push buttons all day and we sort of need to troubleshoot our own problems, that if she wanted to start getting more involved in that, that would be awesome. And it would be, not only helpful to me and to the organization, but that it would be helpful to her. It would help her grow as an employee, as a person. And she has taken every challenge that has been thrown at her and passed all of those challenges with flying colors. And I couldn't possibly say enough wonderful things about her as an employee, and as a person. I mean, I just love her to death. She's great. She's a perfect employee, and she deserves everything she gets.
Thank you, Jason.
I second that.
Great. Thank you, Holly.
I heard it.
Okay, very good. Actually, we have 4 resolutions here that we have to deal with before we go to the budget. Do you want me to take over this one, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
On the promotions. Okay, first resolution is the promotion of Linda Quinlivan. Be it resolved that Monterey Regional Planning Commission hereby approves to promote the current fiscal manager to fiscal director and to increase the salary of this individual to an annual salary of $81,700 commencing July 1st, 2021, the beginning of the FY22 fiscal year. That's the resolution. Do I have any questions on that, or anybody would like to move it?
I'll move it, Alan Pease.
Okay, motion to Alan Pease. Do I have a second?
John Copeland, second.
Okay, very good. Any discussion on this? Not hearing any. I'll call the roll. Sean Copeland.
Aye.
Russell Burke.
Aye.
Russ Wilson.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
John Telepiak.
Slapsiak, aye.
Guy Clogacero votes aye. Dean Valier.
Aye.
And Bill Lefke.
Aye.
And Alan Pease. Okay, it passes unanimously. The next resolution we have is promotion of Holly Ford from executive assistant to administrative manager. Be it resolved that the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission hereby approves to promote the current executive assistant to administrative manager and to increase the salary of this individual for an annual salary of $60,000 commencing July 1st, 2021. Do I have any questions on this? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove.
I'll move to approve. Alan Pease.
Okay. Moved by Alan Pease.
John Copeland, second.
Okay, very good. Sean Copeland, any discussion? I'm not hearing any. I'll call the roll. Alan Pease.
Aye.
Bill Lefke.
Aye.
Dean Valier.
Aye.
Guy Corbisaro votes aye. John Telepiak.
Dukenyak, aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Russ Williston.
Aye.
Russell Burke.
Aye.
Sean Copeland.
Aye.
And with that, that's a roll, and the resolution passes unanimously. The next resolution is recommendation promotion of Kayla Crest from GSI analyst to GSI and IT analyst. Resolution, be it resolved that the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission hereby approves to promote the current GSI analyst to GSI and IT analyst and to increase the salary of this individual to an annual salary of $60,000 commencing July 1st, 2021. Do I have any questions in regards to this resolution? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove.
John Copeland, move to approve.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second. Alan Pease.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion on this resolution? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Sean Copeland.
Aye.
Russell Burke.
Aye.
Russ Williston.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Yeah, Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin. Not hearing anything from Laura, I'll move on to John Telepiak.
Dukenyak, aye.
Corbisaro votes aye. Dean Valier.
Aye.
Bill Lefke.
Aye.
And Alan Pease.
Aye.
And the resolution passes unanimously. And the next one is the resolution to provide additional compensation for employees whose job responsibilities are grown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And if I'm not mistaken, this is Jason we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. The resolution is be it resolved that the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission hereby approves to increase the salary of the GSI and IT director to an annual salary of $85,000 commencing July 1st, 2021. Any questions on this resolution? And this is the last resolution. Not hearing any, I'll ask for a motion.
Yeah, I'll move the resolution, Pete Cunningham.
Okay, do I have a second?
John Copeland, second.
Okay, very good. Any question? Not hearing any, I'll call the roll. Alan Pease,
Aye.
Bill Lefke,
Aye.
Dean Valier,
Aye.
Guy Corbisaro votes aye. John Telepiak,
Yeah, aye.
Laura Schifrin,
Aye.
Matthew Brenner,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Cunningham, aye.
Robert Schwartz,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt,
Aye.
Russ Williston,
Aye.
Russell Burke,
Aye.
John Copeland,
Aye.
and the resolution passes unanimously. Glenn, back to you, back to your 5 point, that's all the resolutions for pay raises. We're back to 5.6, our budget.
I think there's
Back
one
to you,
more.
Glenn. Who done this? Oh, I missed the resolution?
There's one more.
I thought you did 4 for 4 staff. I could have miscounted. Jason's nodding yes. John's nodding yes. John, I think we got all 4. Folks chime in if we miss.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because after that one is the MEC.
We want to go back to 5.6, which has a resolution. John, you may have been talking about that, sir. I don't know. So we haven't passed the budget yet. And I haven't said it yet. Very quick. Apologies. June meetings are always the longest because of budget and other related matters. So very quickly, I did provide a presentation on the budget. Jason, if you'd be so kind to pull up the budget document, PDF from Linda Q. God, he's quick. Look at that. I'm going to summarize, and then I'm going to ask Linda Q to talk, but I think she wants to talk about the budget. Because you know what, Linda, you get to do this next year. Haven't told you that, but no, I'm just kidding. So we get our revenues from technically now 4 sources: federal, state, local, and like Tufts, like nonprofits. So that's a summary of the federal. All of these are virtually all of these are under contract right now, if not all of these. That's Linda's dog, Charlie.
Sorry.
It's okay. No worries, no worries. Jason, would you be so kind as to scroll down to the state? So this is just above the local, Jason, or the state, and you're doing it. Thank you, sir. State and local. So this is state and local contracts. So obviously in any industry, in any business, there's a lot of acronyms used. 303, 870 for AERC, affordable, you know, I can't remember what that acronym is, but basically it's a state contract that comes to us to deliver services. Montezuma Age Friendly, another state contract. Planning Assistance Grant, I mentioned that earlier, another state contract. Surely CDBG, CV, I provided a status report of. Local contracts. This is where we've seen, when I mentioned earlier, I didn't say explosion, I don't want to use that word, but there's been a great, a higher number of local contracts that have come to us. Hey, can you do this for us? It's very interesting, and I will leave this for you to ponder later. Dear commissioners, most of you serving on planning boards and boards of selectmen, that normally we have 3 to 5 local contracts. Here you can see about 10. I'm not trying to count them, but there's about 10 there. During the pandemic, people sat back. They sat back and they said, we got to do some planning. Let's call MRPC. That's been happening for new contracts and repeat customers. It's been an incredible year. It's just really something. Plus, you will see in there something called community. Oh no, okay, the wrong one. There's 306-700 Health Alliance Clinton and 306-400 Haywood Healthcare CHA. Those are community health needs assessments. That's working for the nonprofit world. Okay, so and that's an area. If I was going to do a pie chart, I'd say the federal pie is this big, the state pie is this big, the local's a little smaller. But we have an emerging revenue source that's nonprofit, delivery of services to nonprofit organizations. And now, the next 4 years, if I get to retire, then This is something this agency needs to grow for sustainability. That's always the issue. No one's asked me that yet, but I want to get ahead of that. We have to be sustainable. Eaton, you're proposing promotions. Eaton, you're proposing increases to staff. But we have to have always that sustainability, and this is helping us become more sustainable. So I just wanted to put that out there. Jason, if you'd be so kind to just scroll down a little bit more to the next section, I guess. It says something passed through contracts, EPA revolving loan fund. That's money comes in, we book it separately. We can't use that money for anything else other than making new loans. Excuse me. Total revenue about 1,813,000, 1,814,000. Jason, could you show the expenses, please? So this would be on the top of page 2 from rows 41 down. So total direct salary. So if you're charging directly to a contract, let's say Holly was charging to CDBG directly, she might, she would charge her time there, and then she charges her time to admin. Total direct expenses, indirect salaries. So that's the administrative stuff, okay? And that's a conglomeration of, no folks, Eaton doesn't make $229,000, but that's a conglomeration of the, my salary, the McHugh, the fiscal assistant, Holly Ford, plus a portion or portions of Jason and Kayla's time that would be for IT. We can't charge that directly to a contract, but you still have to keep the IT infrastructure in place. Plus, I believe that's all the leave time benefits as well. So that's about $250,000, and that goes back to the earlier thing on comp time. We have to better control some of these costs so we don't consume on the overhead rate. You will see there under cash matches, we have to match certain grants. We have to match the state district local technical assistance, DLTA 14. We have to match the EDA, the Federal Economic Development Administration. Those are the two that we have to match now. We used to have to match the Federal Transit Administration. We don't have to do that anymore. The rest, I'm not going to go over the detail. I'm going to make 2 comments where it says rows 54. If you can make that on the top, Jay, thanks a lot. So 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 are all out of our hands. Those are, we get bills from the insurance companies, GIC Healthcare, we pay the bills. And if you take 1.8 million and you summed up just those things in those rows, 200,000 plus the others, 250, 275. So 250, 275 of the 1.8 is an area in which you have no control over your budget because you're writing checks for insurances and so on and so forth. Then the rows 60 down to the bottom, you have more control over, and I'm going to ask Jason to stop on just 2 items. One is, Jay, where's the the equipment purchase, row 70, I see it, 77. So that's 18. That could be $1,000, but you know what? We've got to replace that printer. I don't know what it's going to cost, but the last time we bought one 6, 7, 8 years ago, we wrote a check for $14,000. It would be nice if it was less, but I don't think so. We have to go get quotes. We had to figure this out. Our rent, I should highlight under row 80, that it's been 4 years this coming June 26th since we moved in. And several people reminded me of that recently. It's like, oh my God, where did the last 4 years go? For everyone's edification, we have a 5-year lease with a 5-year renewal clause. I call it we have a 10-year lease because we're going to renew there. I mean, we've landed in the best piece of real estate in central Massachusetts. It's gorgeous, and we pay 50% or less than the market value for its Class A office space. We're probably paying, less a percentage for Class A. It's amazing. It does go up a few percentage points every year. That 33,765 is the rent. The electric, I was personally hoping, the last thing I'll say on all these line items is the electric. I was hoping with all the photovoltaic panels on the roof that the electric bill would be a little bit less, but it's not. It's amazing what the bill is. It is what it is. That's one of those things that's out of your control. This is very, very important. This is the first year, I believe, row 87. We talk a lot about retiree health insurance, and the agency has to pay for our contribution toward retiree health insurance. So row 87 that says other post-employment benefits, that's retiree health. 24,000 is not what is generally what we're paying for this line item, writing checks every year. But this line item is putting money into our Mass Municipal Depository Trust, MMDT. It's a savings account. So we're trying to pay ourselves to pay these benefits in the future. So we're trying to build up a kitty. So, so when I retire in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, we want to build this up. We want to keep paying these bills. We want to stay ahead of this because we've just been paying it, without saving the money in advance. We did investigate to a greater degree the setting up of a trust. Many other RPAs set up trusts, socked money away in trust to pay this bill. Now the problem is you have to pay fees for trusts, and also Linda's taught me this, Linda Q. And the last thing on that is that the fees, and then so now they're fully paid. They've paid their obligation, their unfunded liability for OPEB for the future, but they've overpaid into the trust. Now they can't use this trust money for anything else. So they're getting zinged on a fee or fees, and then we're just basically doing cigar box accounting. It's over here and pay for it out of that, and we can earn interest on the MMDT account. So that's a good thing. Total expenses about 1,869,281.11 if you like pennies. I talked about the estimated deficit 55,699.13. That's under, like I said, I'm hoping somebody did the math, but I think it's about 5% of the total, or under the 5%. If you're under 20, you can get through the next year. If this is about 5, we still have to plug the hole, and that's really important, but we can get through the next year. Not even just get through the next year, but we're starting to save some more money, and that's key. This is critical. The last thing I want to say about the budget is nobody got a raise last year because of COVID, and I don't make a lot of popular decisions, but I really wanted to be conservative last year. So a lot of what you're seeing, like I mentioned, Jason, it's public information. Jason, I'm not picking on you tonight, but his proposed bump would have been to 79 this year, okay? And thank you for promoting him and promoting it up to 85. So if he gotten the raise last year, he'd be at the 79 last year, and then he'd be here at 85. So we're not giving astronomical raises to people. We're trying to give people market rates, and we're trying to build. We have loyalty, and I want to sustain that so badly. So thank you for your time to present the budget, and please ask questions if you need to. Then after that, I'll do a 2-second update on MEC, and then we can move on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Any questions of Glenn on the budget? We've got almost 90 plus line items. Any questions on those?
I do, Mr. Chair. Just on the salaries in the promotions, I know in the past we've had the salary table and the steps and the, how does that relate into that?
So the compensation study we adopted, we don't have the steps and grade. We don't have the steps system anymore. People are still paid in accordance to a grade. So what's going to happen is that when I finish job descriptions and evaluations over the next couple of weeks, let's say I'm in grade 20, whatever I am. I don't even know the grade number. Let's say I was promoted tonight, which I wasn't. I'm promoted to a new grade, and then the recommendation from the consultant was get away from those steps of that percent. Yeah, generally we're building a budget on 2.5% for building people's what we used to call steps. That's not a bad number to use. But we got rid of the steps, and we're trying to do stuff as he indicated, as he advised us to do. If you have the cash, A, and B, you can sustain the organization, you think reasonably, through the next 1 to 2 years, it's more art of budgeting than it is being in a rigid system of just giving a cold percentage every year. So what this is really is much more of a merit system. So let's assume that everybody passes their eval, great, by June 25th, I think that was the date. And then up to 2.5% that's now in the budget for the people that weren't dealt with promotions and weren't dealt with adjustments to get people up into the closer to the market rate. So we dealt with 8 people. We still have another 6 or 8 to deal with. Those other 6 or 8 up to 2.5%. A supervisor can do an eval and say, you're doing really well. Glenn's authorized to do the 2.5% that's in the budget, or you're not doing well, and you're marginal, but I think half an increase, half of the 2.5% is more likely. We need to work on improving performance or something like that. Or the person is doing so poorly that they don't deserve, so they go to 0. So that we have more flexibility now as supervisors to work within. Technically, we're still using 2.5%, but not as a step per se in a table. It's a merit system with a pay range, basically. I hope that helps, Roger.
Any other questions of Glenn on the budget? Not hearing any. I'll entertain a motion to accept the resolution or not.
I so move.
I'll second.
Russell Burke and a second from Robert Schwartz. Any more discussion on it? If not, I'll call the roll. Starting again with Sean Copeland.
Aye.
Russell Burke.
Aye.
Russ Williston.
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye.
Robert Schwartz.
Aye.
Peter Cunningham.
Cunningham, aye.
Matthew Brenner.
Aye.
Laura Schifrin.
Aye, sorry about that.
Thank you, Laura. John Telepiak.
Dukenyak, aye.
Guy Carpenter votes aye. Dean Valier.
Aye.
And I think that's everybody I have on the list now. I think somebody dropped off, but if I have missed anybody, please speak up. Otherwise, the resolution adopting the MRPC's FY22 budget passes unanimously. And then we have one item left on the agenda, which Glenn, or not on the agenda, but on Glenn's report, which is MEC.
Yeah, basically
Glenn?
we, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Basically, we have a nonprofit affiliate, MEC. We have to hold an annual board meeting, and I got to file an annual report by September 30. This is more due diligence reporting from me to you folks. And that also there are some people on the executive committee that serve on the MEC board. So I'll provide, folks with information on MEC and what it is. I'll give background. And the last thing I'll say on that, and then just, Mr. Chairman, I got to stop talking because you know what? It's almost bedtime. So we have some new members, we have some not new members, and we have members in the middle. And I really want to, especially with COVID, quote unquote, ending, I really want to do like a new commission member orientation, but open to everybody. We really should immerse ourselves in our own little trade show conference room table, and maybe we can do this with YouTube videos or something that you can take on your own. But we really need to do something for all of you good people who volunteer every 30 days. So anyway, bottom line is I'm going to do a MEC board meeting, a MEC annual report. I'll explain more about that, and I'm thinking, Jason, it's time to ratchet up MRPC TV, and we'll do some Q&A and stuff like that. Maybe we can get people that love to be in front of the camera, like Holly, to help us out. Holly, she's going to kill me for that later. Mr. Chairman, I'm done with my report. Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, very good. Glenn, we are a little past schedule. It's a little after 9. Normally at this point, we would go into the contact status report. The contact status report is 24 pages long today. Usually I read each heading, but I think in the
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we waive the reading of the project status for this meeting.
Very good. I think I don't even think we need a motion on that. If anybody has any objection, I do want to mention that we have most of our staff here tonight. George Cathale, John Hume, Jason Stanton, if any of the members have any questions or were waiting to ask any questions on any of those items, such as the transportation, such as, let me go here, the geographic information systems, under planning development, under transit, and under transportation. If you have, anybody have any questions in regards to those items for any of the staff members? Not hearing any. I'm just going to move on to the next item, which is new business. Does anybody have any new business they want to bring in front of the board? Not hearing any. We'll move to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, that's Robert Schwartz. Do I have a second?
Second.
And keeping in for rules and regulations for small boards, I call this meeting adjourned at 9:06. Thank you very much, everybody, and appreciate the time spent.
Thank you.
Thank you.